So today, Fender announced the brand new Vintera 2 Road Worn series. These are a limited edition set of guitars that will not last. And I'll tell you what, you better get the jump on this because I've told you before Vintera 2 is one of my favorite series. The new features of the Road Worn series look super exciting. Hey, it's John here for Play and Trade Guitars, and I'm giving you my first take on this new Vintera 2 Road Worn series. You can use my link for fast free shipping and easy payment plans. If you're buying a guitar like the Vintera 2 Road Worn, you can break it up into no interest payment plans. It makes buying new gear super easy, and you help me make these videos. All right, let's take a look at the series and see what we know so far. So I've told you before that the Vintera 2 series, which is made in Mexico, is one of my favorite vintage inspired series. Now what this does is take your regular Vintera 2 and add the nitrocellulose finish and great colors as well. I love these finish colors. You got vintage vibe and aesthetic, things like on the Teles, check this out. You got a beautiful rosewood fretboard. You got the vintage slot style tuners, the vintage truss rod adjustment, these 60s style vintage voice single coil pickups, 3-barrel saddle design, and a medium C-shaped 60s inspired neck, even a 7¼ inch vintage radius. So I have said before that if you want a vintage-inspired Strat or Tele or Fender guitar, Vintera 2 packs a serious punch. The pickups in this series sound fantastic, and the guitars are just some of the best out there, especially if you're looking for an affordable entry into a Fender vintage-style Tele or Strat. $15.99 is the price. It is more expensive, but I have very high hopes that this series is going to deliver. And hit subscribe now because I have these guitars on order for full reviews on the channel. You won't want to miss those. Don't miss any of the new guitar reviews. And by the way, when you hit subscribe, you be in it to win it. This Gibson Les Paul Standard is going to one of you very soon when we hit 100,000 subscribers. So all right, let's take a closer look. Scan this QR code or use the link pinned in the comments to shop. I'm super excited about this 60s Tele with rosewood, but check this out. This one I might even be more excited about. Look at this blonde Tele. Oh my goodness, with the worn maple fretboard. I mean, how cool is that? This looks like a custom shop design, or it looks like actually, I mean, if I just glanced at this in the inventory of a vintage guitar store, it looks like a real vintage Tele. It is so cool. I just absolutely love that look. Now, the Strat with maple is also super cool. Classic black Strat, looks very worn in, broken in, nitrocellulose finish. And again, the Vintera 2 series has incredible sounding vintage voice single coil pickups. If you want a traditional vintage inspired Fender, this is the best MIM series for the money. I believe, without even playing these guitars yet, that the price hike, it is more expensive than the regular Vintera 2, but because it's limited edition, because it has the nitrocellulose finish and this little bit of extra magic with kind of the finish wear, if that's your thing, spring for it. If you want my hot take, if you don't want to pay the extra, don't forget that Vintera 2 are still there, and those are some of my absolute favorites. Check out my reviews, for example, of the Vintera 2 60 Strat. That is hands down one of my favorite guitars that Fender makes. That's the Vintera 2 60 Strat at $1209. But cruising through this series, I know this one's going to be super popular. Sonic Blue Strat with a rosewood fretboard. Aesthetically, it actually reminds me of the new Ultralux Vintage series, where on the American high-end, they did this finish checking on a nitrocellulose finish. So this seems to be the equivalent in the Vintera 2 series made in Mexico of this treatment that they were giving to the much higher end Ultralux Vintage series. I'm very, very excited about what I'm seeing here. Now this one almost knocked me over. I checked out first the 3-color Sunburst, and then I moved over to this Fiesta Red. I can't wait to get my hands on this one. Between the Jaguar and the Jazzmaster, okay? I prefer the Jazzmaster. Why? Because the Jazzmaster is full scale length, 25½ inch Fender scale length, instead of short scale, which is the Jaguar. And this 50s road worn Jazzmaster looks fantastic in Fiesta Red. You have the anodized, looks like the gold pick guard, and all that cool stuff. Vintage aesthetic, and here's the thing. While Jaguar pickups sound more like single coil Strat pickups, there is a unique sound that you get from Jazzmaster pickups which sound like nothing else and fit perfectly in any guitar collection to round out your palette of tones. The Jazzmaster is super cool. I cannot wait to play this one. I almost might be the most excited about that blonde Tele, to tell you the truth, and this one. I think this is just fantastic. And this one's actually $100 more with the Jazzmaster. There's a little more going on under the hood, a little more in terms of components and features. And then you even have a bass. You got a P bass, road worn. I think this is just absolutely fantastic. And I would get a jump. If you are interested in these guitars, I would order them They are limited edition. I don't know, I don't have any information on the quantities, but I can endorse Vintera 2 so much that I will tell you this. Look, if you want the Vintera 2 regular series, you cannot go wrong at around $1,200. But if you want these limited edition guitars that feature the nitrocellulose finishes and the finish checking, you're gonna get these with fast free shipping, and the payment plans, you can break this up over 12 months, no interest. It makes buying a new guitar like one of these road-worn Vintera 2s that much easier. And the reason I'm telling you this, I've played a lot of guitars from Fender, and I do believe that in the past few months, Fender has been putting out the most exciting guitars in many years. They seem to be getting just the right combination of the vintage aesthetic for those that want the traditional vintage thing, and then a lot of cool new modern appointments on series like the Ultralux Vintage and the Player 2 mod. I think Fender is really listening and really delivering. And while the price hike is there and it's made in Mexico, I can testify that based on guitars like the Vintera 260 Strat and the Mike McCready from Pearl Jam Stratocaster, also made in Mexico, they are knocking it out of the park, and I'm very excited to play these guitars. I'd love to hear from you in the comments. What do you think of this new series? What do you think of the price, the features, the look, the finish checking? I am super excited to get my hands on these guitars, and as soon as I do, you can check out the full reviews here on the channel, so hit subscribe, and also you'll be in it to win it with that Les Paul. It's John here from Play and Trade Guitars. I just had to give you a quick shout out to say, look, I've got these guitars on the way, and I saw the announcement and said, that is so up my alley. When you give me a vintage inspired guitar at a relatively affordable price, although prices are starting to creep, aren't they? I'm very excited to check these out. Nitrocellulose finish checking, worn in look. Look at this telly. I mean, this blonde telly just looks absolutely ridiculous. I'm excited. Use my link if you are shopping, or scan this QR code, and it makes buying gear a lot easier. It's also how I make these videos. I cannot wait to get my hands on this series. Until the next video, check out the demos across the channel, including the Vintera 2 series, which I have covered in depth. See you next time for Play and Trade Guitars. This is John. Take care and keep playing.